Hey, it's Rex on the road. We're running into some old radio friends, and what I really mean is they're really old.
Absolutely. Well, he's talking about him.
Yeah. Wild Bill Shakespeare. We worked together at Quad 106.
Absolutely.
You helped me put together the air check that got me on the air in San Francisco.
I'll take my check now, man.
I didn't make very much money, unfortunately. And eventually that led, for me, to 99.7 KFRC for a brief moment in time.
Yeah.
About a year we were there. I was able to be the first jock to send on the oldies format at 99.7.
I love that.
Yeah, and so that was fun. And you're a radio guy that's worked in Sacramento, you've worked in Reno, you've worked in San Francisco. You've been everywhere, man.
Over the years, yeah. You know, and we were just chatting a little while ago. It's not the same, so we're all shifting gears a little bit.
Yeah.
And now you're doing your thing.
Yeah.
I check out all your videos and all the great food and good things you get to eat.
And you have an online radio station. If you love top 40 hits from the 80s, I love it. Online
Totally Retro Radio. There's the plug.
Total Retro Radio.
Totally Retro Radio.
Totally Retro Radio. See, I'm going to get the name right sooner or later.
Yeah.
And so tell us what's going on today with KFRC.
Well, you know, I found the sturgeon probably around 2014. I was down in Santa Cruz, dying a slow, terrible death, quite honestly, sitting under a tree owned by a public station.
Right.
They weren't taking care of it. They used it basically once a year for the Jazz Festival in Monterey. I asked to buy it then, and they didn't want to sell it. They kept saying, well, it's our baby, and we're going to use it, and all these kind of things. Didn't take care of it the way we were used to seeing it when it was at KFRC. But so I stayed on it. I every once in a while would call, hey, you guys thinking about it?
Check it in.
One time at lunchtime when I was at work, I called and they said, you know, it's funny you should call because we just had a board of directors meeting and we're thinking about getting rid of it.
Right, we're going to have to sell it. Yeah.
So I said, okay, well, let's have the conversation. Well, we already had a guy that's already interested in it. He's going to give us a big chunk of money. And he wanted to demolish it. He wanted to take the chassis.
Okay.
And for those of you who've heard of Birding Man up in northern Nevada, he wanted to use the chassis to build what they call an art car.
Okay.
So I'm like, well, that's not going to happen. So we got a little bit of a bidding war.
Okay.
And I kept working with the GM and saying, hey, you know what? Let's make this work. I'll save it. I'm not going to destroy it. Saved it and picked it up on a January day. Flew down from Reno during a storm. 5 o'clock in the morning, part of the story. Got on one of those prop planes that you freak out in a snowstorm. Are we going to make it over the mountains kind of thing?
The day the music dies type of thing.
Yeah, it's scary, man. And I'm thinking I'm going to fly down and land in San Jose and then take a Uber down to
get it
and drive it back. But it was scary as hell to fly and snow. And then, well, thankfully we made it safely. Picked it up. It was raining in San Jose and it was windy and I didn't know what kind of condition it was, mechanically to drive.
Right, exactly.
Strangely enough, there was a leak in the front windshield, so as I drove, I'm getting all this like soot and dust, dirt that's been there for how many
Think
years?
of Noah's Ark, maybe.
It's kind of like that. I kept waiting for the animals to come out of the back.
2 by 2. And then you finally got it. You got it back to Reno, I assume. And you realized it needed a lot of work, and so you had to do a lot of reconditioning. And
that was the first thing was washing it. I have a little guy, and he was out. There's pictures of me, us scrubbing it off. The back corner, sitting under the tree, you couldn't even tell what color it was. So we scrubbed it, cleaned it, and started all the basic things. The inside had all kinds of dust, dirt.
Well, it looks terrific. I mean, as you look at it here, you would never know that it had fell into such disrepair.
Well, people always say, well, what would you do? You just saved it. I didn't do it for myself. It's not my favorite thing to say, but it's truly how I feel. I saved it for you. I mean, all of us
radio history. It's radio history. And some of us were lucky enough to say those magic call letters, KFRC. Myself, way after the real KFRC.
The AM days.
The real 610 KFRC. But I did get to say KFRC on the air, and I'm very proud that I was able to do that.
Absolutely.
And just the heritage, you got guys like Bobby Ocean, John Mac Flanagan, guys that I've met or worked with that were truly the legends of that radio station. Dr. Don Rose. I mean, there's not a lot of legendary radio stations like KFRC.
I call it the greatest top 40 of all time. And I guess if you're in Chicago or New York or LA, you might have a different opinion. It's truly, I mean, I used to call it the fabric of someone's life. And when you go into high school, today we got our phones and we got all these mediums that are all around us that we can, kids, they don't lock on to anything anymore. When we were all growing up, the radio is part of our lives. You know, the jocks that we listen to are part of our lives. We gravitate, not only because you and I have been in radio, but even the regular listener. I had a lady come up to Hot August Nights when we were out there. She walks up and looks where Dr. Don used to sit and says, starts waving her hand from, started to cry.
Right.
Oh my gosh, KFRC, Dr. Don Rose. It tells you she's not a radio person. She's just a listener, a kid who was a teenager that grew up on the station.
Well, the great thing about great radio stations like KFRC, and Bill, you and I have had the chance to work at a lot of radio stations.
Sure.
We can count on one finger the real great radio stations that lives on in people's minds, like KFRC. And there's probably one or two, right? And this is one, and this is maybe even two. KFRC. And, you know, I got the chance to work with John McFlanagan, who I absolutely loved, was probably my guy that I kind of like focused my show on. And wanting to sound like him and wanting
your inspiration.
And Bobby Ocean was another guy who's here today. These were great radio personalities that were authentic, that were real people, and were able to reach an audience, entertain, and share those special memories.
Which, you know, we were talking about that too. Where is that today?
It doesn't exist.
And now we talk about this is why we gravitate to these call letters and these people. It's more than just music on the radio. It's a living, breathing entity that has kind of vanished a little bit. So
it was a human experience. It was a human shared community. You know, I say radio was the original social media. Right?
Absolutely.
It was before Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and whatever else is out there.
And it's so much more fun, I think.
I do too.
Perspective is different.
I loved being on the radio. And that was something I wanted to do since I was 3 years old. And I don't know why that is. It was probably hearing guys that were like on KFRC and go, wow, that sounds like they're having the most fun in the world.
And they connected with you.
Right, exactly.
And then you got to do it.
Right, and hopefully, you know, we carry on that tradition. Thank you, Bill.
It's
a pleasure,
nice to see you.
We used to hang out when we worked at Quad 106.
The old days, Quad in Sacramento.
And just had a great time. I learned a lot from Bill about
we
radio.
had a blast.
And Bill was a great friend. And, you know, as things go on, sometimes we drift apart, but social media, we see what each other are doing.
Well, I follow, like I say, all Rex's videos and drinking this, sipping on that,
I'm sorry.
having something.
I'm sorry.
Good stuff.
It's fun stuff.
I'm like, how come I don't get to do that?
You're invited anytime. We'd love to have you come and hang out with us. You know, just let us know. In fact, we're trying to get up in Reno, so maybe you can help us get some places in Reno. That would be fun.
That would be the connection for sure.
Exactly. Check out Wild Bill's radio station. What is it again?
Totally Retro Radio on Live 365.
All right, check it out. It sounds great if you love the 80s. And today we're loving our legendary radio station, 610 KFRC. Woo!